The stranger in the cabin. Snow fell quietly as John climbed the cold mountain path. His boots sank into the deep white ground. The air was thin and sharp, but he didn't stop. He had one goal: to reach the old family cabin, hidden deep in the woods. It had been 3 years since he last visited. After his father died, the cabin was left empty. Now John needed peace. No phones, no people, just the forest, the cold, and his thoughts. Finally, as the sky darkened, the wooden cabin appeared behind thick trees. It looked the same, small, lonely, and covered in snow. But something felt off. He stepped onto the front porch and saw footprints. Not his own. They were small, barefoot, and fresh. John's heart beat faster. He unlocked the door and pushed it open slowly. It creaked like always, but the air inside was warm. Someone had been here recently. He sniffed. A strange, sweet smell floated in the air. Not like food. Something not human. As he stepped inside, the wooden floor creaked beneath him. He dropped his bag and looked around. Everything seemed untouched. But then he heard it. Soft footsteps. They came from behind the curtain near the bed. John turned fast. "Hello? Who's there?" Silence. He walked slowly toward the curtain, heart pounding. Just as he reached for it, something moved fast. A shadow darted across the room and hid under the bed. John dropped to his knees and looked. 2 glowing blue eyes stared back at him. His breath caught. It was a woman, but she looked strange. Her skin was silver gray, glowing faintly like the moon. Her hair was long and white, like snow. She curled herself tightly, shaking. She looked more scared of him than he was of her. "I won't hurt you," John said softly. She said nothing, just stared. He slowly backed away. "I didn't know anyone was here." She didn't move, just held her breath. John sat on a chair across the room. "I just came to rest. I can leave if you want." Still no reply. He made a fire in the fireplace. The heat slowly filled the room. After some time, he looked under the bed again. She was gone, but the door was still closed. He searched the cabin, but she was nowhere. Vanished. That night, John couldn't sleep. He kept hearing quiet movements, soft steps, a chair creak, the sound of water. But every time he looked, no one was there. In the morning, he found that the food from his bag was half gone, and a blanket was missing. John smiled a little. "So you're still here." That evening, he decided to try something. He cooked simple soup, placed it on the table, then went outside. He waited behind a tree, cold and quiet. After 10 minutes, the door opened. She stepped out. She moved like a ghost, light, careful. She looked both ways, then took the bowl and went back inside. John waited another 10 minutes, then went in. She was sitting near the fire, sipping the soup. This time, she didn't run. She looked at him, eyes wide. Her lips moved. She said one word: "Leave." Her voice was soft, but full of warning. "I just want to talk," John replied. "Who are you?" She shook her head. He sat down slowly, keeping distance. "This cabin is my home, but I can share." She stared at him, then whispered, "No share. Dangerous." John tilted his head. "Dangerous? What do you mean?" But she didn't answer. She stood, grabbed a thick blanket, and moved to the far corner of the room. That night, John didn't bother her. He slept in a chair, blanket over his legs. She stayed in the corner, wrapped like a ghost. At dawn, she was gone again. But this time, she left the bowl clean and placed neatly on the table. John smiled. "She's not from Earth." John woke up to a soft breeze passing through the open window. The morning light touched the wooden floor of the cabin. He sat up slowly, rubbing his eyes. The room was quiet again, but something had changed. The bowl from last night was not just clean. It now had a small carved symbol on its bottom. A glowing mark, like a star with three tails, freshly burned into the metal. John stared at it. Did she do this? He touched it. It was warm. Just then, a sound from the woods outside caught his attention. Snap! A branch had broken. He ran to the window and peeked through the curtain. Far off in the trees, a figure moved silently. Long white hair, bare feet in snow. It was her. John quickly put on his coat and stepped outside, careful not to make noise. He followed her trail, light footprints in the fresh snow, deeper into the woods, deeper than he'd ever gone. He found her near a frozen stream, kneeling beside a stone. She was whispering. Her glowing fingers touched the rock, and suddenly it pulsed with a faint blue light. The snow around it melted in a perfect circle. John gasped. She turned quickly. "You followed me," she said. Her voice was sharper now. "I had to," John replied. I saw the mark you left." She stood slowly. The wind lifted her white hair, and her glowing eyes stared into him. "You are not supposed to be here." "This is my land," John said calmly. "That cabin is my family's. But I'm not angry. I want to understand." For a long moment, she just looked at him. Finally, she spoke. "My name is Sarai. I am not from this world." John didn't move. She pointed at the sky. "I came from up there. From a place you've never heard of. My ship crashed. I hid here." John's breath turned cold in the winter air. Sarai continued, "Your kind, your people. I watched from the woods. Guns, loud machines, fire. I thought you would kill me." John slowly sat on a rock nearby. "I wouldn't." She tilted her head. "You're different. You didn't attack. You offered food." He smiled slightly. "It's just soup." She smiled back. "Just a little." It was warm. Then her expression darkened. "I wasn't the only one who came through the sky," she said. "Something else followed. It's hunting me. It can smell me, track me." John stood. "What is it?" "A predator. It eats energy, not just bodies. My ship gave off too much power when it crashed. It found me. I ran. I hid." Her eyes lowered. "I thought I was safe. But now, with you here, it may come again." John looked around at the trees. The air felt heavier suddenly. "Is it close?" "I don't know. But when I saw your fire, I thought it was the end." They returned to the cabin together. For the first time, Sarai walked beside him, not hiding, not afraid. Her body left faint glowing trails in the snow that faded quickly. She moved like light. Inside the cabin, Sarai sat by the fireplace. John poured tea and gave her some. She held the cup like it was a treasure. "You don't have tea on your world?" John asked. She shook her head. "We don't drink. We absorb energy through the skin." She touched the cup, and steam curled around her fingers, glowing slightly as it entered her body. John was amazed. "How long have you been here?" he asked. 71 sunrises, she replied. John realized she meant days. "You've been alone all that time." She nodded. "Hiding. Healing." She rolled up her sleeve to show her arm. Thin metal rods were buried under her skin, glowing faintly. Her veins pulsed with light. There was a deep burn mark on her shoulder, 3 sharp points like claws. "This is from the hunter," she said. "It never forgets the scent." John felt a chill, and it could come back. Sarai stood suddenly and walked to the far corner of the room. She moved aside a loose floorboard and pulled something out. It looked like a crystal, the size of a large book. It shimmered with purple-blue light and hummed softly. "This is my core stone," she said. "It powers my ship. It is also a beacon. If the hunter finds this, it will come." John asked quietly, "Why keep it then?" "It is also my only way home." Suddenly, a loud crack echoed from the woods outside. Both of them froze. Sarai held the stone tightly. Too late. John ran to the window and looked out. The sky had turned darker, too dark for afternoon. Strange clouds swirled above the mountain, and a shadow moved across the trees. Huge, silent, like smoke, but alive. Sarai grabbed John's hand. "We have to hide. Now." They ran to the back of the cabin where an old root cellar was hidden. Inside, it was dark, cold, and damp. Sarai placed the crystal in a hidden spot, then covered it with stones. The shadow outside passed slowly over the cabin. John could hear it breathing. Not like a human breath, more like air being pulled through glass and fire. Sarai whispered, "It smells light. It eats heat. We must stay cold." John shivered and tried to slow his breathing. In that small space, with fear pressing down on both of them, he realized something. This wasn't just about her anymore. He was now part of something bigger, something alien, something dangerous. And he had a choice: run or stay and help her fight. He looked at Sarai. Her eyes met his. "You could leave," she whispered, "but you didn't." John replied, "You were alone." "Not anymore." And outside, the shadow kept searching. Her secrets and her fears. The storm outside didn't come with wind or rain. It came with darkness. The shadow creature passed over the cabin, searching. It left no footprints, no scent, but its presence stayed in the air like poison. Inside the root cellar, John and Sarai didn't move. They barely breathed. John could feel her hand trembling in his. Her skin was warm, even in the freezing underground room. She didn't speak. She didn't blink. She just stared at the wooden ceiling above them, as if waiting for it to crash down. Then, slowly, the heavy air faded. The pressure on John's chest lifted. The silence returned. "It's gone," he whispered. "No," Sarai replied softly. "It's circling." They stayed hidden for another hour, just to be sure. When they finally stepped back into the cabin, the sky had returned to normal. But the trees looked darker, like the forest had been drained of its color. John shut the door behind them and turned to Sarai. "You need to tell me everything." Sarai stood by the fire, staring into the flames. Her shoulders sagged. For the first time, she looked tired, old. "My people are called the Morellians," she said. "We are light-born. Our bodies absorb energy from stars and crystals. Our cities float. We do not fight. We do not harm." John sat down across from her. "Then what happened?" he asked. Sarai's voice turned cold. "One of us tried to become more than a washer. He wanted power. He created the Veil Beast, a creature made of pure hunger. It escaped his control. It started feeding on us." John's eyes widened. "The shadow." "Yes," she said. "The more it eats, the more it grows. It doesn't kill to survive. It kills to feel alive." She walked to the table and touched the crystal hidden under a cloth. "It followed me through the stars. I was supposed to destroy the beacon, but I couldn't." "Why not?" Sarai turned to him, eyes glowing dim. "Because I still hoped someone would find me. Save me." John stayed quiet. The fire crackled between them. "Now it knows I'm not alone," she continued, "and it will not stop until we're both dust." John stood up. "Then we don't let it win." "You don't understand, John. That thing isn't from your world. Your weapons won't hurt it. Your science can't explain it. It's darkness that thinks, that learns." John looked at her closely. "Then tell me how to fight it. There has to be a way." Sarai hesitated. Then, for the first time, she walked up to him, not as a stranger, not as an alien, but as someone desperate and afraid. "There might be a way," she whispered, "but it means opening a door I swore never to touch again." She walked to the back of the cabin and knelt beside the wall. Her fingers moved across the wood in a strange pattern, and suddenly, part of the wall shifted and opened. A secret panel. Inside was a small black orb floating above a crystal dish. John stared at it. "What is that?" Sarai didn't answer right away. Her hands trembled as she held the orb. "This is a memory seed," she said. "It holds the worst day of my life." Without waiting, she pressed it to her temple. The orb glowed bright, and John saw images in the air, like smoke painting a story. He saw a shining city floating in the clouds, music in the air, people made of light laughing and dancing. Then darkness covered it all. The veil beast came like a cloud of knives. It tore through buildings. Screams echoed. Lights died. Sarai ran, her mother pushing her toward a small craft. "Go, child," her mother said. "Fly. Tell others. Stay alive." Sarai cried. The ship closed. The city exploded behind her. The vision faded. The orb turned black again. John didn't know what to say. Sarai dropped to her knees, tears glowing on her cheeks. "I watched everything die," she whispered. "I've been running ever since." John knelt beside her. He didn't speak. He simply placed a hand on her shoulder. After a moment, she whispered, "Why are you still here, John? Why didn't you leave when you saw me?" He smiled sadly. "Because you looked like someone who needed a friend." Silence passed between them. Then Sarai stood up, stronger now. "There is an old temple high in the northern cliffs," she said. "Inside, there's a mirror stone. If I reach it, I can open a gate to another world. A safe place. But that means leaving this mountain." She nodded. "And crossing into the hunter's territory." John thought for a moment. Then he nodded too. "Then we go together." Sarai looked surprised. "You would risk everything for someone not even from your planet." John chuckled. "You're not just someone. You're Sarai, and I think you've already saved me too, in a way." For the first time, Sarai smiled without fear. But outside the window, far off in the woods, the trees shifted, and two glowing red eyes blinked in the darkness. The veil beast had learned a new scent, and it was hungry. The hunters are near. For 2 days, John and Sarai prepared to leave the cabin. They packed what they could: food, warm clothes, blankets, small tools, and most importantly, Sarai's crystal core. She wrapped it carefully in thick cloth, then layered it inside a handmade bag from her ship's remains. "This stone is the last part of my world," she said. "It cannot fall into the hunter's hands." Outside, snow continued to fall, but something was wrong. The forest no longer felt like a forest. The animals were gone. No birds, no wolves, no deer. Just silence. Even the wind seemed to move slower, heavier, like it was carrying a weight no one could see. John stood on the cabin porch and looked around. "It's too quiet." Sarai stepped beside him. "It's watching." "You mean the hunter?" "No," she said. "Hunters. Plural. The veil beast makes smaller ones, shadows with claws. They search. They'd follow the scent of fear." John looked at her. "Then we give them nothing." Sarai nodded. "No light. No sound. No warmth. We move like ghosts." They set out just before sunset, walking north toward the cliffs. Sarai led the way, guiding John through hidden paths she had discovered in her months alone. She moved with grace, barely touching the snow, her body blending with the cold air. John, on the other hand, stumbled more than once. "Your boots are loud," Sarai whispered, smiling. "I wasn't trained to walk like a ghost," John replied, trying to laugh quietly. But deep down, his nerves were tight. The forests changed as they moved. Trees leaned strangely, twisted and dry, even though it was winter. Black marks were burned into some of them. 3 long claw marks, deep into the bark. "What did this?" John asked. Sarai didn't stop walking. "Trackers." "What are they?" She looked over her shoulder. "Half shadow, half machine. They come first, like wolves before a lion. If we're lucky, they haven't found us yet. And if we're not lucky?" She didn't answer. That night, they camped in a hollow cave under a cliff. They couldn't light a fire, so they huddled close for warmth. Saray's body glowed faintly, and John could feel the energy pass through her skin. "Do you sleep?" he asked. "Not like you," she said. "I rest my light, but I stay half aware." John looked at her, the glow of her skin soft and steady. "You're not like anything I've ever seen." She smiled gently. "And yet, I feel safe with you." John blushed, even in the cold. Suddenly, Saray's eyes snapped open. "Shay," she whispered. "Something's near." John froze. He heard it too, a scraping sound, soft but sharp, like metal claws across ice. Then a hiss. A long, low hiss that made the hair on John's neck stand. Sarai grabbed his hand and pulled him deeper into the cave, into a narrow gap between rocks. She touched the stone beside her, and it shimmered faintly, covering their hiding spot with a thin energy field, almost invisible. Then they waited. The sound grew closer. From the darkness outside, something stepped into the cave, not walking, gliding. Its body was tall and thin, wrapped in black smoke. Its hands were long with curved claws, and its head was smooth, eyeless, except for 3 glowing red dots moving in a triangle pattern. John held his breath. The thing turned its head slowly, scanning the room. The red dots glowed brighter for a moment. Then it let out a harsh clicking sound and moved on. Sarai didn't breathe until the clicking faded completely. "That was a tracker," she whispered. "It was close." John swallowed. "If it had found us, it would not have killed us fast," she said coldly. "It would have marked us, and then the beast would come." They stayed hidden until sunrise. The next day, the journey became harder. Snow turned to ice. The path narrowed. The cliffs loomed above them like giants made of stone. But they were getting closer. "The temple is not far now," Sarai said. They reached a frozen river and followed it for hours. Saray's energy was weakening. Her skin no longer glowed brightly. She stumbled once. John caught her. "You okay?" he asked. She nodded slowly. "The cold is feeding on me. The hunter, it pulls warmth from the air. My light fades." John helped her walk. "Then we rest." But just as they found shelter near a rock wall, a loud screech echoed through the valley. It wasn't human. It wasn't animal. It was pain and hunger and rage, all in one. Saray's eyes widened. "It knows." John looked around. "What do we do?" She pointed to a ridge. "Up there. There's an old station from my ship. I hid a signal disruptor. If I activate it, the hunter can't smell us." They climbed quickly, slipping on ice, pushing through snow. Behind them, shadows began to move. Not one, not two. Dozens. Creatures crawled through the trees, small black things with long arms, glowing red lines on their skin. Their mouths opened wide, full of jagged teeth. John fired a flare gun into the air, not to signal, but to distract. The creatures screamed and scattered for a moment, confused by the light. Sarai reached the top of the ridge and ran to a metallic piece sticking from the snow. She pulled out a strange device and slammed it into the ground. The air shook. A wave of blue energy rushed out. The creatures stopped. The shadows froze. Everything went quiet. Sarai collapsed to her knees. John rushed to her. "Sarai." She opened her eyes slowly. "We bought time. That's all." He helped her sit up. "Then we use it. Show me the path to the temple." She pointed to the mountain peak, now clear in the distance. A tall, dark structure sat there, almost like it had always been part of the land. "That's it," she said. "The last hope." John looked down at the valley, now filled with creatures searching, sniffing, crawling. Then he looked at Sarai. "We're going to make it," he said. "Together." But the red eyes in the forest below had already started moving again. Time was running out. "We fight or we die." The mountain wind howled like a beast in pain. John stood at the edge of the frozen ridge, staring down at the dozens of red eyes now moving through the dark forest below. The creatures were coming, faster, louder, angrier. Behind him, Sarai sat weakly near the energy disruptor, breathing slow and shallow. Her glow was fading. The crystal bag on her back pulsed softly, but it was dim, like a dying heartbeat. "They're coming again," John said, gripping his hunting knife tightly. "I know," Sarai whispered. "They can feel my light." John turned toward her. "Then we stop running." She looked up at him, confused. "You said we bought time, right? Let's use it. You said your temple is just ahead. We'll never make it if they catch us again." Sarai hesitated. "You want to fight them?" John nodded. "We fight, or we die." For a moment, neither spoke. Then she smiled faintly. "You really are different from your kind." John helped her up and carried her to a small stone shelter built into the side of the cliff. Inside were broken pieces of alien metal, old tech from her crashed ship. Most were dead, but not all. Sarai dug through them with shaky hands and pulled out 2 long rods made of glowing silver. "What are those?" John asked. "Light blades. We use them to cut through void stone. They'll cut these creatures too." She handed one to him. He felt it vibrate softly in his hand, and when he pressed the button, a long, glowing blue edge hissed into the air like a sword made of lightning. "I like it," John whispered. Then Sarai opened a second box. Inside were 4 small discs, flat and covered in alien symbols. "Grenades," she said. "Throw them hard. Run faster." John nodded, strapping them to his belt. She looked at him, serious now. "These creatures don't fear pain. They only fear bright light. Keep moving. Don't stop." John grinned. "We'll make them regret chasing us." They set up traps near the ridge, tight wires, fallen logs ready to drop, and 2 grenades buried in snow with pressure plates. It wasn't perfect, but it was all they had. Then they waited. It didn't take long. The first tracker appeared, crawling up the cliff face. John held still as it sniffed the air, its 3 red dots glowing. Then he threw a rock. The tracker turned and stepped on the grenade. Boom! The snow exploded, fire and blue sparks flying in all directions. The creature's body twisted in the air before vanishing in smoke. But now the others were here. 10, 20, 40. The snow exploded as shadows crawled, jumped, and screamed their way toward them. John ran to the front line with his blade ready. One creature leaped, and he slashed. The blade hissed through the air and cut through the thing's neck. Its body exploded in dark mist. Another jumped behind him. Sarai threw her blade. It spun like light and struck the creature midair, lighting it on fire. John turned and caught the blade before it hit the ground. He looked at her. "You're full of surprises." She smiled, breathing hard. "Don't drop it." The fight was brutal. John moved like never before, cutting, running, throwing snow and light at the enemy. His hands bled. His body ached, but he didn't stop. One creature grabbed his arm, its claws digging deep, but Sarai ran forward and slammed a disc into its chest. Boom! The thing exploded, and the blast knocked both of them into the snow. John coughed, his ears ringing. Sarai crawled over him, checking his wounds. "You're hurt," she said. "I'm fine," he groaned. "How many left?" She looked behind. "Too many." "We can't hold them all," she said. "We have to run, now." John stood, blood dripping from his hand. "Then lead the way." They ran. Up the last icy slope, through thin air, breathless, weak, chased by death. The temple finally appeared, a tall black tower, half buried in snow, with a round mirror at the top glowing faintly. "This is it," Sarai gasped. They climbed the narrow steps to the entrance. John held the last grenade, ready to drop it behind them. But just as Sarai touched the temple door, a scream split the sky. Not a creature, not a tracker. Something else, something bigger. The Veil Beast. It stepped out of the forest like a nightmare, over 12 feet tall, made of smoke and fire. Its head was a twisting storm of red lights. Its body had no legs, just dark tendrils crawling across the earth like snakes. It roared, and the mountain shook. Sarai fell to her knees. "It's here." John stepped in front of her. "Get that door open." "But you'll open it." The creature moved fast, faster than anything that big should move. John pulled the pin from his last grenade and ran toward it. "Hey," he screamed. "Come me." The creature lunged. John threw the grenade into its mouth and dove to the side. Boom! The explosion lit up the sky. The monster roared in rage and smoke, but it didn't die. It only paused. It was too strong. John crawled back, coughing. "Sarai." "The door." "I need more time," she shouted, her hands moving fast over glowing symbols. The Veil Beast rose again. And then John stood tall, looked at it, and said one thing. "I'm not afraid of you." The creature screamed. Sarai's hands stopped. The temple door opened. A beam of light shot into the sky. The creatures below turned to smoke. The trackers screamed and fell. The Veil Beast roared and began to break apart, its body pulled by the light. Sarai grabbed John and pulled him inside. The doors slammed shut. Silence. Only their breathing. Only the warm hum of the temple around them. Sarai fell against the wall. "We made it." John dropped beside her. Barely. She looked at him. "You should have run." He smiled. "I told you. We fight, or we die." The final stand. Inside the ancient temple, everything was still. John leaned back against the stone wall, blood drying on his face, clothes torn, muscles aching. His heart pounded, but not from fear anymore, from relief. Somehow, they had made it. Across from him, Sarai sat in silence, her eyes closed. The soft blue light in her skin began to return, glowing like morning stars. The energy of the temple was healing her, feeding her. The walls hummed gently, like they were alive. John whispered, "What is this place?" Sarai opened her eyes. "A sanctuary, built by my ancestors. A place the Veil Beast cannot enter." She stood slowly and walked to the center of the round room, where a mirror-shaped structure stood, glowing with swirling silver light. "This is the mirror stone," she said. "It can open a path to the other side, a world untouched by shadow." John walked beside her. "So we escape now." Sarai didn't answer right away. She placed her palm against the mirror stone, and it rippled like water. Symbols appeared in the air, spinning slowly. Then she said something that made John's heart drop. "I can go through, but you can't." "What?" "This gate only reads Marellian energy. It won't open for human life." John stepped back. "But I thought we'd both go." "I hoped we could," she said quietly. "But this temple is very old. It doesn't recognize your kind." John looked away, jaw tight. "So what now? You go, and I stay here to die." "No," Sarai whispered. "You stay, and you stop the beast." John blinked. "What are you talking about?" She turned to him, eyes wide and serious. "The temple light heard it. You saw that. It's not just a gate, it's a weapon. The mirror stone can release a final burst of light, one so strong it will destroy the Veil Beast and its children forever." John's voice was low. "Then do it." Sarai shook her head. "It needs a soul. A living being must remain behind to trigger it." Silence. John stared at her. "You mean someone has to die?" She nodded. "Yes." He stepped away, fists clenched. "You brought me here knowing this." "No," she cried. "I didn't know until I touched it. I thought—" She stopped. "I thought maybe we could both live." John looked at the mirror, the swirling light, the path to peace, freedom. And he looked at Sarai. The woman who wasn't human, but who had cried, bled, and laughed beside him. The one who had trusted him when no one else had. "You go," he said quietly. Suray's eyes widened. "What? You said your people are gone. You're the last. That means you matter more than me." "No," she whispered. "You matter too." "I'm just a guy who lived in a cabin," he said. "You're the last star of a dead world. If anyone should live, it's you." Sarai stepped close, tears glowing in her eyes. "I won't leave you. You have to." "I won't." John reached into her satchel and pulled out the core crystal. He placed it into the slot on the mirror stone. The room brightened. "The gate is ready," Sarai whispered. But before she could stop him, John pressed her hand to the activation symbol. The mirror flashed. A wind filled the temple, and the portal opened. Sarai tried to pull away. "No, John." But light wrapped around her. She began to vanish. "No," she cried. "Let me stay." John looked at her with sad eyes. "You saved my life," he said. "Now I'm saving yours." The portal swallowed her. She was gone. The room turned silent again. John walked back to the mirror stone. He pressed his palm on the final sigil, the one marked in red. A deep hum began to rise from the floor. The walls vibrated. The entire mountain shook. Outside, the veiled beast screamed. It climbed the cliffs in rage, all of its shadows screaming with it. It threw fire, darkness, blades of wind, but none could reach the temple. Inside, John stood tall. The sigils turned white, then gold, then light. A beam shot into the sky, cutting through clouds, reaching the stars. The veiled beast howled as its body burned, twisted, and began to fall apart. One by one, its trackers exploded into smoke. Its limbs turned to dust. Its roar became a whisper. Then, it was gone. Forever. The temple walls slowly cracked. The mirror stone dimmed, and John fell to his knees. He smiled softly. Then everything faded to white. Far away, Sarai stood in a field of blue grass, under a green sky with two suns. The air was warm. Birds with crystal feathers flew above. But her heart was broken. She turned, and there, in her hand, was a small piece of the mirror stone, glowing with John's fingerprint. She fell to her knees. "I'll never forget you," she whispered. A soft breeze passed by, and in it, she heard his voice. "We fight, or we die." The cabin's new guardian. It had been 3 Earth seasons since the veiled beast was destroyed. The mountain was alive again. Snow melted. Streams flowed with crystal-clear water. Birds returned to the trees, and deer walked freely through the forest trails. The darkness that had once choked the valley was gone. But the cabin still stood, old, wooden, silent. No one dared to come near it, not even the animals. It wasn't because of fear. It was because of presence. Something still lived there. One morning, a group of young hikers wandered too far from the trail. They were laughing, tossing snow, unaware of the place they were approaching. Then they saw it, a cabin on a ridge, hidden between tall pine trees. The sky above it seemed brighter, almost glowing. One of them, a boy named Liam, stepped toward the porch. "Looks abandoned," he said. But the moment his boot touched the first step, he froze. A strange energy wrapped around him. It wasn't cold. It wasn't hot. Just watching. Liam slowly backed away. "Let's go," he said, heart pounding. As they walked away, none of them noticed the figure standing inside the cabin window. A man in an old brown coat, eyes glowing blue. Far away, on a twin-sun planet filled with light and music, Sarai stood inside a high tower built from crystal and gold. Below her, Morellian children played, their laughter echoing through the valley. She had built a home here, a refuge for lost ones like her. But she never smiled like she used to. Every night, she returned to the mirror room, A quiet chamber where a broken piece of the old mirror stone floated in the air. It pulsed softly with the echo of John's soul. He was gone, but not fully. She spoke to the stone often. "I wish you could see this place," she whispered one evening. "You'd love the food. It tastes like sunlight." No reply, only the hum of the stone. Then, one day, it changed. The hum grew louder. The stone glowed. And Sarai heard a voice, faint but clear. Not gone, just watching. Her eyes filled with tears. She pressed her hand to the floating shard. John, back on Earth, inside the cabin. The fire crackled even though no one had lit it. The table was clean. A bowl sat neatly on top, warm soup inside, steam rising. And sitting in the chair, facing the door, was John. But he was not the same. His body was part light now, his eyes glowing faint blue, like Saray's once did. His skin looked normal in daylight, but in darkness, he shimmered like a fading star. He was not alive in the way humans understood it, but he was not dead either. The mirror stone had changed him. When Sarai passed through the gate, something happened. The stone did not take his life, it merged it. Now John was the guardian of the mountain. The light of the temple lived inside him. As long as he remained, the veil would never return. And so he waited, quietly, watching, protecting. One evening, as twilight touched the snow-covered peaks, John stepped out of the cabin. The wind passed through his hair. He looked toward the stars. He could still hear her voice sometimes, Sarai, laughing far away on that alien world. He missed her, but he had no regret. He had made a choice, and in return, he had been given a purpose. Suddenly, he felt something strange, a shift in the air. He turned. A light appeared in the trees, soft, warm, moving toward him. He reached for the blade on his hip, still the alien light blade Sarai had given him. But as the light came closer, he froze. It wasn't danger. It was her. Sarai, standing in the snow, glowing faintly. Her feet didn't even touch the ground. She smiled, eyes wet. "I wasn't sure if you'd still be here," she said. John stepped forward, eyes wide. "But how?" She held out a hand. The mirror wasn't the end. It was a beginning. Our bond was stronger than the gate's limits. He stepped into her arms. For a moment, Earth and her world merged. Their light mixed. Their energy balanced. And in that moment, John understood. He didn't have to guard this place alone anymore. Together, they returned to the cabin. They sat by the fire, just like before. She told him stories of her new home. He told her of the animals returning, the sky clearing, the peace. They didn't need many words. Just being close was enough. And outside, the forest whispered gently. The mountains slept peacefully. Because now, the guardian had returned, and he was no longer alone.